In October 2025, Israel published a list of 250 prisoners for release. Quick note: like, comment, and subscribe. Do you support releasing convicted prisoners for innocent hostages? Share your view below. Among them, terrorists, bombers, and murderers. Viewer discretion is advised. Amid a fragile truce, a controversial exchange takes shape. Hostages for hundreds of prisoners. Lists released from late 2024 into January 2025 push the total past 1,000 slated for freedom. Many are convicted terrorists, documented bombers, stabbers, and shooters. Each release carries security risk. They come from 4 factions: Hamas, Palestinian Islamic Jihad, Fatah's Al-Aqsa Martyrs Brigades, and the PFLP. Not everyone was on the table. Marwan Barghouti and Ahmad Saadat remain behind bars, Israel's red lines. Next, we put names and crimes on the record. The list of prisoners slated for release is not a monolith. It represents a cross-section of the most hardened and violent factions within the Palestinian militant landscape. These are operatives from distinct, often rival organizations, each with its own dark history, its own brutal ideology, and its own preferred methods of terror. The names on this list are tied to some of the most devastating attacks in modern Israeli history. They belong to groups like Hamas, Palestinian Islamic Jihad, Fatah's Al-Aqsa Martyrs Brigades, and the PFLP, and they were convicted of the most serious offenses imaginable. First, Hamas. An acronym for the Islamic resistance movement, Hamas emerged in the late 1980s during the First Intifada. Its military wing, the Izz ad-Din al-Qassam Brigades, became infamous for its campaign of suicide bombings during the Second Intifada. Their methods were brutally effective, targeting crowded buses, cafes, and public spaces to maximize civilian casualties. Among those released is Imad Kawasme, a key logistician behind the 2004 Beersheba twin bus bombings. He wasn't the bomber, but he orchestrated the attack that killed 16 people, including a 3-year-old boy. His release is not a return home. He is designated for deportation. Then there is Palestinian Islamic Jihad, or PIJ. Smaller and more singularly focused than Hamas, PIJ is ideologically rigid, rejecting any political process and dedicating itself solely to armed struggle. With alleged deep ties and funding from Iran, PIJ was a pioneer of suicide attacks, often competing with other factions for notoriety. Their cells, particularly in northern West Bank cities like Jenin, were responsible for a relentless wave of violence. The release list includes senior PIJ commander Iyad Mohammed Abu al-Rub, a man Israeli authorities hold responsible for multiple deadly suicide attacks. He, too, is marked for deportation. Perhaps most complex is Fatah, the party of Yasser Arafat and the Palestinian Authority. Its official stance moved towards negotiation. Yet during the Second Intifada, its armed offshoots, the Tanzim and the Al-Aqsa Martyrs Brigades, operated with near total autonomy. They carried out hundreds of shootings and bombings. One of the most lethal was the 2003 bombing of a bus in Jerusalem, which killed 23 people, including 7 children. The man convicted for his role in that massacre, Mohammed Aref Samhan, is on the list. He will be deported. Finally, the list includes members of the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine, the PFLP. A secular Marxist-Leninist group, the PFLP gained global infamy in the 1970s for its airplane hijackings. While its influence has waned, its commitment to violence has not. Its operatives continue to carry out bombings and shootings. Among them is Khalida Jarrar, a senior political figure convicted for her role in a terror cell linked to a 2019 bombing that killed a 17-year-old Israeli girl. These are the groups. Their crimes are not abstract. They are a litany of terrorist bombings and murder. The factions behind these releases are not politics as usual. They are engines of fear. All are designated terrorist organizations that reject coexistence and use violence against civilians. Methods evolve. Intent does not. Their ideologies justify sustained terror campaigns targeting civilians. Hamas, Islamist militia ruling Gaza since 2007, designated terrorist group. Its charter rejects Israel and legitimizes violence. Strategy: blended insurgency, tunnels, rockets, suicide bombers. Targets: buses, cafes, city streets, crowded by design. Signature: the Second Intifada wave, Beersheba, 2004. Twin bus bombings, 16 dead. Operatives: planners, recruiters, bomb makers. Funding streams: internal taxation, external patrons, smuggling networks. Rhythm of attack: diversionary gunfire, secondary devices, mass casualty timing. Palestinian Islamic Jihad: smaller, harder. Designated terrorist group with a single mission. Continuous war: no politics. Targets include buses, markets, and other civilian sites. Early 2000s. Jenin cells, suicide belts built in safe houses, competing for notoriety with back-to-back bombings. External backing attributed to Iran: money, training pipelines, and parts. Tradecraft: bomb vests, car bombs, sniper cells, time for rush hour civilians. Jenin, Tulkarm, Netanya, map lines, safe houses, couriers. Fatah's offshoots: Tanzim and the Al-Aqsa Martyrs Brigades. Nominally political, in practice, autonomous terrorist networks designated for orchestrating civilian attacks. Jerusalem, 2003, Bus Route 2, 23 killed, 7 children. Method: close-in detonation on a packed evening route. Cells ran handlers, couriers, safe apartments, and stolen plates. When arrests mounted, they shifted to drive-by shootings and roadside bombs. The PFLP, secular, Marxist-Leninist lineage, designated terrorist group, from 1970s hijackings to modern clandestine bombings against civilians. Recent pattern: roadside IEDs and shootings in the West Bank. 2019, roadside bomb near a spring, a 17-year-old killed. Civilian spaces were the intended targets. Network profile: small cadres, disciplined logistics, propaganda through spectacle. Objective: psychological terror against civilian populations. Across factions, constants repeat. Recruitment of youths and fugitives. Workshops for explosives. Recon on bus lines, markets, Memorial Days. Civilian soft targets. And the message is constant: civilians are the target. These campaigns are built to terrorize the public. Sirens, then silence, then names. This is the campaign. This is why releases echo far beyond the prison gates. Profiles include Imad Kawasme, bus bombing, 16 killed. Mohammed Samhan, bus bombing, 23 killed. Qasim al-Asafreh, stabbing murder. While the release list was extensive, the names on it are just as significant. These are the figures whose crimes were deemed so severe, their influence so potent, that their release was never a point of negotiation for Israel. Among those not released, Marwan Barghouti. A prominent leader of Fatah's Tanzim militia, Barghouti was convicted for his role in multiple deadly attacks during the Second Intifada. He is currently serving 5 consecutive life sentences. Despite his imprisonment, he remains a highly influential figure in Palestinian politics, often polled as a potential successor to Mahmoud Abbas. His exclusion from the deal underscores his status in the eyes of Israeli security. Then there is Ahmad Sa'adat, the Secretary General of the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine, or PFLP. He was convicted for orchestrating the 2001 assassination of Israeli Tourism Minister Rehavam Ze'evi in a Jerusalem hotel, a direct retaliation for Israel's killing of his predecessor. Sa'adat is serving a 30-year sentence. His continued incarceration is a stark reminder of the PFLP's violent history. Other key Hamas figures also remain behind bars. Ibrahim Hamid, a Hamas commander from the West Bank, was one of Israel's most wanted fugitives for years. He was ultimately sentenced to 54 life terms for ordering a series of suicide bombings and shooting attacks that killed dozens of Israelis. and Abbas al-Sayed, the mastermind of one of the deadliest attacks of the Second Intifada. Al-Sayed orchestrated the 2002 Park Hotel bombing in Netanya, where a suicide bomber detonated his device in the middle of a Passover Seder, killing 30 civilians and injuring 140. He is serving 35 life sentences. For Israel, releasing men like Hamid and al-Sayed was an impossible concession. For the 250 prisoners who released, their destinations were carefully dictated. The geography of their freedom is a complex political map. Only 15 were permitted to return to their homes in East Jerusalem. 100 were sent to the West Bank, under the jurisdiction of the Palestinian Authority. The largest contingent, 135 individuals, were deported. Stripped of the ability to return to their homes in the West Bank, they were sent either to the Gaza Strip or to third-party countries like Qatar and Turkey, effectively exiled. This strategy of deportation is designed to sever their operational ties to militant networks in the West Bank. The policy is informed by past experience. Following the 2011 Gilad Shalit prisoner exchange, Israeli intelligence tracked the activities of those who were freed. Within a few years, at least 47 of the released prisoners had been rearrested for renewed involvement in terrorism. This history looms large over the current deal, fueling a fierce debate within Israel about the long-term security risks of such exchanges. The fate of these newly released individuals, whether they will reintegrate into society or return to violence, remains a deeply uncertain and unsettling question. Among those released, perpetrators of bombings, stabbings, and murder. These are the faces of terror now walking free. The deal frees convicted terrorists, their crimes, bombings, stabbings, and murder. Their release, a victory for terror. Hamas, PIJ, PFLP, convicted for deadly attacks, bombings, stabbings, murder. This is who they are. Like and subscribe to Smarto Brains for more engaging deep dives into breaking news, politics, sociology, economics, and social policy.